This is Jacob Fry with FryTech IT Services again. In this how-to video, I'm going to be showing you how to take out a power supply on a desktop. I've got my old trusty Vista Dell machine here, and a lot of these are pretty standard. You have different types of power supplies. Most power supplies and machines are ATX or micro ATX if they're smaller, um, but they're pretty similar on how you would disconnect them. So what you do for this desktop, take off the thumb screws back here in the back and pop this case side off. Just pull that back, set that to the side. Now this is your power supply right here. This is actually a 300-watt power supply, which is fairly small these days. See if I can get you some better views on the components in here. So you've got your power supply, and then you have your main power cord here, which runs down here to your main 24-pin connector. And then you have power connectors that go to the DVD drive, and one that would go to a hard drive if there were a hard drive in here. There is actually not a hard drive in this machine. It was an old machine that I decommissioned for a customer, and I've disposed of the hard drive. And then over here in the corner, which is kind of hard to see, would be your 4-pin connector right here, which is this brown and black cable. There's a 4-pin connector that always goes off to the side by the processor, at least on most motherboards. Now you can look up the specifications for these for the ATX, and it tells you the voltage on all these cables and all that stuff. I'm not really worried about that. If you want to research that, you can. But for most motherboards, you would have the main 24-pin connector, a side 4-pin connector, and I think they started using 6-pin connectors now. And a lot of times you'd have power that would go to your video card, but this particular one does not have that. But for a lot of the newer PCI 16X video cards, the higher end ones, especially NVIDIA, ATI, they will have external power for the video card, and they'll use a lot more than a standard 300, 350 watt. You'll use your 750s, 800s, even a kilowatt power supply. So that's a little overview of the machine. Now I'm just going to pop off the main components here, or the power supply out here. Most power supplies, especially ATX, are going to have 4 screws here on the back. You got 2 here and 2 up here, and they're just the standard Phillips. And you could just pop those off. I think it's a 1/4-inch socket as well, and that's what I'm using. It's just a screwdriver that has replaceable heads for it, but I just didn't put a head into it, and it fits these just fine. Alright, once you pop this out for this model, right here you've got this clip that's way down here. If I can get my finger to it for you. But there's actually 2 clips. There's one down here on this side and one on the bottom here. And you push down on those clips, and you're just going to slide the power supply this way. So stick my hand down in here, pop those down. And that power supply starts to come up. Also on your main 24-pin connector, like most power connectors on here, oops, see if I can get my camera here. You can see actually. Right here you got a little clip, and all you do is pull this clip in towards the back and push straight up. Some of these older ones get in here a good little ways. I'm going to have to set my camera back down. Put a little more oomph into it. And see, it's just got this clip right here, and when you push down on that clip, the piece of plastic that snaps in there will allow you to take that out. So I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to pull the power out from the DVD drive. And the power on the DVD drives and hard drives are your standard SATA power. They just plug straight in. They have a key on here. There's a little L shape right here, and they're keyed to only fit in one way, so you don't put them in backwards. But you pop that out, and then stick your hand down here where this 4-pin connector is, and it's very similar to the 24-pin connector, just 4-pin. It's got the key on it and everything, or the lock on it, I mean, so that you can get it out. Then your power supply just should come up and back. Once you get those buttons down. So these buttons are not designed very well. At all. And once you clear that piece of metal, everything, this will start to come up. And we've got a metal clip down here that routes power cords that's in the way. And we got 2 of them actually. A lot of these companies try to route the power so that they don't get hung on anything, and you got to always watch out for those. And once I get all that unraveled, get my power up and out. Pull it out of the 3.5 floppy, which you don't see anymore. Not unless it's legacy. There you go. That's power supply removed. And here's these metal clips I was talking about. These push down so that the power supply will slide back. You got a piece of metal here on this end that you've got to clear before to come out. And then here's these routing clips here that the power cables were connected on. But that's how you would take it out. Then you would get a standard ATX power supply, which should have the 4 screw holes in the same place. You got one here, one here, one here, and one up here. And you can see on the back that they're in the same spot as well. And as long as they match up to that hole back there, you're good to go. And then you just want to make sure your wattage is good. A lot of times to check out wattage is you can sit here and add up everything in your computer and kind of see what wattage it is. Normally I just go based on a computer like this on standard uses a 300 watt power supply. So if you got 2 or 3 hard drives and a video card that requires 400 watts, I would shoot for a 650 or a 700, something like that. You can always have more wattage. If you have too much wattage, it's not going to matter because these components only pull as much wattage as they need. So since your voltage is constant and everything else is constant, your resistance is not constant, but your voltage is constant, you're just going to pull the amount of wattage that you need out of these power supplies. The thing is, if you throw a 300 watt in and you need a 500 watt, it just won't power your machine. It'll be running on almost a brownout power, which is not good for electronics. Probably wouldn't even boot. So if you're running dual video cards with SLI or Crossfire, Link with 2 ATI cards and multiple hard drives and stuff like that, I would run up to around a kilowatt power supply just to make sure you got the juice to push everything. But anyway, that's a way that you would take the power supply out, and then you would just reverse that same process to put it back in. Just slide the power supply back in here, get the clips. You don't have to worry about routing the cables if you don't want. Punch that 4-pin cable in, plug power into your DVD drive, 3.5 you probably won't ever even use. The hard drive would be here. You plug power into that, then you make sure to put your main 24-pin power in, and you can tell on one side of it, it's got a rail right here that clip goes on the other side and links, and it'll only go in one way. They shape these holes. If you look down at these holes right here, they shape these holes in certain ways so that this cable only fit in one way. So there's really no way to put anything in backwards or mess anything up because it's all keyed in ways so that you can't mess it up and blow something up. But hopefully you learned something from this video or got what you need to install your own power supply or upgrade your own power supply. Hope you enjoyed it. Please visit me at www.frytechit.com.